About 30 miles inland from Charleston, South Carolina, sits a car factory the size of a small town. It cost over $1 billion to build. It can turn out 150,000 vehicles a year, and most days, it runs more than half empty. The cars that do roll off the line wear a Swedish badge, a name Americans have trusted for 3 generations. Volvo, safe, sensible, Scandinavian. Except that factory is not Swedish. The company that owns it is Chinese. And the man who runs that company has started saying out loud to reporters that he wants to build Chinese-brand cars right there in South Carolina with American workers on the line. Now, before we go further, I'm going to be straight with you, because that is the deal on this channel. The headline you clicked said America's biggest car factory will build Chinese cars. That is not quite true. This is not America's biggest car factory, not even close. The biggest by the number of cars it builds is Tesla's plant in Fremont, California. The biggest by workers are the Ford and Toyota plants in Kentucky. Every one of them is American, Japanese, or German-owned, and not one builds a single Chinese car. So no, the biggest factory is not the story. The real story is stranger. A Chinese giant does not need America's biggest factory. It already owns an American one, and it has for years. While everyone watched the front door, arguing about tariffs and cheap imports, China walked in through a door nobody was guarding. The door marked ownership. By the end of this, you will know how a Chinese company got inside America's 100% tariff wall without paying a cent of it, why Detroit's loudest China critics are partnering with that same company, and how a car built in South Carolina by American hands just got banned from America. Stay for that last one, because it tells you everything. Here is the idea the whole story hangs on. When you hear Chinese car, you picture where it gets bolted together, a plant somewhere in China, a ship crossing the Pacific. But that is not what makes a car Chinese, and the people who write trade law know it. A car is Chinese if a Chinese company owns the brand, if Chinese engineers designed it, if Chinese software runs the screen, and the batteries come from a Chinese supply chain. Where the final screws go in barely matters. So here is the whole thing in one sentence. America built a wall to keep Chinese cars from being imported. It did almost nothing to stop a Chinese company already building cars inside the wall. In fact, Chinese-designed cars have sat in American driveways for years. Some of them sold under all-American badges you already trust. Go back to 2010. Ford, bleeding cash after the financial crisis, sold Volvo to raise money. The buyer was a company almost no American had heard of, a Chinese automaker called Geely, run by a man who got his start making refrigerator parts, Li Shufu. The price was $1.8 billion. At the time, it looked like a curiosity. 15 years later, Geely is the second largest car maker in China, behind only the giant BYD. And it does not just own Volvo. It owns Polestar. It owns Lotus, the legendary British sports car maker. It owns the electric brand Zeekr, and it holds a large stake in Mercedes-Benz. Last year, Geely sold more than 3 million cars, up nearly 40% in a single year. This is not a scrappy little firm. This is one of the most powerful car companies on Earth, and it has held a factory on American soil for the better part of a decade. That factory near Charleston is why all of this is possible, and its story is almost tragic. Volvo opened it in 2018 to build a sedan, at the exact moment America stopped buying sedans and wanted only trucks and crossovers. So a plant that could build 150,000 cars a year ended up building a sliver of that. By Volvo's own admission, it recently produced less than 5% of the company's volume in the United States. Analysts estimate around 20,000 vehicles last year, roughly 13% of what it can do. Picture it. A billion-dollar factory standing 80% empty day after day. That is not just waste. It is a problem screaming for a solution. And the head of Geely believes he has one. In the fall of last year, Volvo said it would fill that plant back up, roughly doubling the workforce toward 4,000 people. Good news for South Carolina. But this past spring, the announcements turned into something far bigger. Volvo's chief executive told reporters the company would consider building Geely-branded vehicles at that American plant. Not Volvo's, Chinese-brand cars made in South Carolina. Geely's founder backed him up. One Volvo executive called the Charleston plant a crucial part of the growth strategy. Analysts have a strong guess which brand shows up first. Zeekr, Geely's slick electric line, the very same one the self-driving company Waymo already runs on American streets today. Now, I will be square with you. This is not a signed deal yet. It is the man in charge saying on the record that he wants to. But in this business, when the boss floats it to reporters, that balloon is already in the air. So why? Why build inside America instead of just selling the cars Geely already makes? Because Chinese car makers hit prices no American company can touch. Not a little cheaper, shockingly cheaper. BYD sells a plug-in hybrid starting around $14,000. The cheapest electric car built in America, the Chevrolet Equinox Electric, starts near $33,600, more than double. BYD sells a small electric car, the Seagull, for under $10,000 back home. A brand new car for the price of a used one over here. Elon Musk, not a man easily rattled, warned that without trade barriers, Chinese car makers would pretty much demolish most other car companies in the world. One American manufacturing group went further, calling a wave of cheap, subsidized Chinese cars a potential extinction-level event for the United States auto industry. Extinction level. That is the language serious people are using now. And here is where it gets bigger. The companies shouting loudest about the Chinese threat are climbing into bed with China. Ford has warned about the danger as much as anyone. Yet this past summer, Ford announced a partnership with Geely, that same Chinese company, to build electric vehicles together at a plant in Spain. And here in the States, Ford is building a battery plant in Michigan using technology licensed from the largest battery maker in the world, a Chinese company. The other giant, Stellantis, owns a chunk of yet another Chinese car maker and helps build its cars in Europe. And before you point at that old Foxconn truck plant in Ohio, forget it. Foxconn is Taiwanese, not Chinese. It built almost nothing there, and the site was sold off to become a data center. That story is dead. This one is very much alive. The tariff wall, it turns out, is full of doors, and some of the most American names in the business are holding them open. But America did notice, and the counterstrike is the strangest part of all. Start with the wall because it is enormous. The previous administration raised the tariff on Chinese-made electric cars to 100%, doubling the price of any that tried to cross the border. The current administration kept that wall standing and stacked a separate 25% tariff on all imported cars and parts. Shipping a finished Chinese car into America became impossible. That should have ended it. But the government understood the ownership problem, so it went after what lives inside the car. A modern car is a computer on wheels. It knows where you drive, it can hear the cabin, and it phones home constantly. So the Commerce Department wrote what is called the Connected Vehicle Rule, banning Chinese software and eventually Chinese hardware on the theory that you do not want a fleet of cars on American roads quietly reporting back to Beijing. And now the fact I promised you. This past June, the Commerce Department refused to authorize Polestar for the coming model year. Polestar, banned from the American market. And remember what Polestar is. The Geely-owned electric brand whose main model is built right there in Ridgeville, South Carolina. Built in America, by American workers, and banned from being sold in America anyway because its owner is Chinese. Now, set this next to it. Just weeks earlier, Volvo, with the exact same Chinese parent, was cleared to keep selling. Same owner, same country. One banned, one approved. Which proves the one thing that matters in this whole story. The ban had nothing to do with the factory and everything to do with who owns you. A car built in South Carolina was treated as a Chinese car because it is a Chinese car. Exactly what I told you at the start. It is never about where the screws go in. It is about whose name is on the deed. The politics stacked on top are pure whiplash. This past January, the president stood in front of an audience in Detroit and said, close to his exact words, "If they want to come in and build a plant and hire your neighbors, that is great. I love that. Let China come in." A few months later, in late July, a committee of the United States Senate voted unanimously, both parties together, to advance a bill that would ban Chinese-linked vehicles, drawing the line at any company more than 15% Chinese-owned. One hand waving China in, the other building a taller fence. And here's the final twist. That 15% line is drawn so broadly that lawmakers realized it might accidentally ban Mercedes-Benz because Chinese investors together hold close to 20% of Mercedes. The chairman of that Senate committee admitted it out loud. The rule written to keep Chinese cars out could snare one of the proudest German brands on earth. That is how deep the Chinese money now runs through the whole global car business. So follow the money, the way we always do here, and ask the only question that matters. Who wins? Geely wins, sitting inside a 100% tariff wall it never has to pay, wrapping its Chinese cars and American jobs as political armor. American workers win, with real paychecks filling a plant that sat mostly empty. American buyers might win too, if this finally puts a truly affordable electric car on the lot. And Detroit, for all its public fear, wins too, because Ford and Stellantis already worked out that they cannot build a cheap electric car without Chinese batteries and Chinese cost engineering. So they would rather take a cut than get run over. The only real loser is an idea. The comfortable idea that an American car is American. Follow the design, the batteries, the software, and the ownership all the way down, and the phrase American car ends up pointing at one thing only: the zip code where the worker clocks in. So the question was never whether Chinese cars are coming to America. They are already here and have been since 2010, parked in your neighbor's driveway wearing a Swedish badge. The real question is the one almost nobody wants to answer. If a car is designed in China, powered by Chinese batteries, owned by a company in China, but bolted together in South Carolina by an American earning an honest wage, whose car is it, really? Tell me in the comments below, and be honest. Would you buy it if it were built by American hands and priced thousands of dollars under anything Detroit sells you? Does ownership actually matter to you? Or in the end, is it just the badge on the hood and the number on the sticker? Because your honest answer is the one the entire industry is betting billions on. If this made you look at the cars on your own street a little differently, hit subscribe, because next time we open up the part nobody warned you about. Not who builds your car, but what your car sends back. The data a modern vehicle quietly ships home every single mile to the people who made it, whether you ever agreed to it or not. I will see you there.